Sophia Jackson, and I'm a Black and Indigenous Filipino actress and content creator. And this is Tracing the Trend, where we trace the origins of today's most popular trends and examine how they've shaped our society. Cultures influence one another all the time, and that exchange can be a great thing. It can help ideas grow and change, bring people together, and strengthen communities. But there's always a risk that adaptation can turn into appropriation, where cultures become exploited and the creators behind them get overlooked or ignored. On today's episode, we'll be exploring this topic through an example that's near and dear to my heart: the influence of hip-hop within Asian communities. Growing up as a military brat, I've lived in many different neighborhoods and countries, ranging from mostly Asian to predominantly Black. As a result, I found myself identifying with both cultures. This was especially the case ever since I moved to good old Long Beach. It was so cool to see, African Americans supporting Asian American rappers in a way which proved to me that cross-cultural exchange can be a positive one. Unfortunately, some of the discourse I've witnessed online between both Black and Asian communities has been a different story, but I truly believe that an open discussion can help foster growth. So today, we're tracing the trend of hip-hop culture's influence on Asian youth with 3 rock stars. Lending her POV as the first Asian woman in hip-hop, Sophia Chang tore through the music industry, managing some of the biggest names like RZA and Old Dirty Bastard of the Wu-Tang Clan. Emerging as the latest artist out of the Bay Area to put Asian American rappers on the map, my friend Guapdad 4000 is here to talk about how his Black and Filipino upbringing has affected him personally and professionally. Danyel Smith has an impressive pedigree that includes being the first African-American editor of Billboard magazine and the first female editor of Vibe magazine. With a career immersed in hip-hop music and culture, Danyel brings her expertise and insight into hip-hop's global influence.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have everyone here for this conversation. I'm Black and Asian, so I've always been interested in exploring this conversation, and what a wonderful group of people to have this conversation with. So thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's lovely to be in attendance.
Yeah. I want to show you guys a music video from a Cambodian American rapper from Long Beach. His name is Stupid Young. Let's roll.
Ask about me in the streets, I'm a East rep. Home with Snoop Dogg and DPG, but we next. That's the city by the sea.
So, Stupid Young has come under some controversy because he is an Asian rapper and he is, making music videos like this, particularly from people who aren't from Long Beach. I'm from the east side of Long Beach, so this is something that I'm very familiar with. But I just wanted to get your guys' opinion. What do you think of an Asian rapper? What do you think of the style of music that he's making?
People have an issue because an Asian is rapping?
Basically, yeah. They have a problem with him, just the way that he's acting, his demeanor.
These are my markers for cultural appropriation. Mm-hmm. It's DEE. Denigration, exploitation, and erasure. If the blanket question to me is, should Asians be able to rap? Yeah, I don't know any, nobody that I worked with. There is no way that guys in Wu-Tang would be like, oh, Asians can't rap. Mm-hmm. It's such a preposterous notion. I think anybody who engages in hip-hop who is not Black or brown has to acknowledge that and acknowledge your privilege, right? I was welcomed into hip-hop. I was embraced by hip-hop in 1987. That was a privilege. It's not my culture. I didn't make it. Mm-hmm. It's not my folks. It's not my history. But they took me and oh, so come over here. And that was a privilege. Mm-hmm. And I understood that. That's the part that's important to me.
Now, Stupid Young isn't the only Asian American rapper who's been grabbing attention. There's so many others from different parts of the world who have also fallen in love with hip-hop. But when you think about its rich history, what's not to love about it? Black people have always utilized music as an avenue of communication, social commentary, and expression. For hundreds of years in West Africa, history was told through stories and gossip. The roots of rapping began with storytellers using rhyming as a way to remember and repeat these tales. Fast forward to the 20th century, Bronx, New York, where Black music, storytelling, and rapping evolved into what would eventually become not only one of the world's most popular music genres, but also a profoundly important cultural movement, influencing those worlds away from the NYC block parties from which it originated. What began as local Black and brown street culture has been embraced by people all around the world. But what's the line between respectful borrowing versus blatant exploitation?
I think the thing for me is erasure. Hip hop is so massive. It impacts culture so much. It impacts global culture so much. There's no way it's not going to have an effect on everybody. But the problem comes in is when Black people are erased from that. When artists come in and act like there was no part of Blackness in this, I'm just me and I'm just doing it. Even in this short bit that we saw, he said, Snoop Dogg is from here and we're next. And immediately I was like, oh, okay, cool, he gets it.
I feel like that's the authenticity that we look for. And I do know this man, I'm friends with him. And I could say that it's very authentic all the way. And that's why it's even hard to pick at it, because it's him. That's how he lived.
That's good to know.
Actually, Cambodian Americans, most of them came to this country as refugees during the Cambodian genocide, you know. The leader there killed, you know, almost a quarter of the population. They all had to migrate here. And when they got here, they often lived and moved into, you know, low-income communities like Eastside Long Beach, and there were already established street gangs there. So they just had to assimilate. I think that's a part that a lot of people don't recognize about the Asian American experience, is that when you come here, there's like one or the other that you have to assimilate to. And I feel like that's not talked about enough. I went to the streets of Long Beach and we talked to some kids over there to get their opinion. We talked to some teenagers, we talked to some people my age, and we're just gonna take a look at it and get your reactions.
Skies, gray clouds, and some palm trees. Bad bitches in bikinis blowing palm weed. I'm a soldier and my hood is an army. On me, West Coast, California bound.
Do you think that not like an Asian person can make rap music?
Of course, anybody can make music. Anybody can make rap music, because it really depends on where you come from and what you're saying.
Stupid Young is from Long Beach, and he grew up in the community with Black people and Black culture.
Right.
So I do think it's different for him.
Do you think that that's a problem if they're rapping about things that they grew up with instead of like rapping about growing up in a rough neighborhood?
Rap isn't just for one culture, it's
Right.
for everybody as long as it's authentic.
Right.
That's my man behind the PCH. This bang
Do you think that there are certain artists that are from those cultures that perhaps don't have that understanding of hip hop or
Yes, of course. I mean, of course, there's gonna be.
Do you think it's because of a language barrier?
So really what we're fighting on the larger scale is ignorance, right? Because we don't even have the opportunity to learn about each other's cultures, right? So everything sort of seems like you're taking from somebody else.
Right.
In the American context, we were built on appropriation, right? So people's norm is to just take.
Yeah.
And also there's appreciation. There's two levels of appreciation, right? There's surface level appreciation, and then you take it, but you still appreciate, but you don't include any Black people. That's different than appreciating that culture, including in what you do, and then also appreciating the people that go along with it.
Yeah.
blowing palm weed. I'm a soldier
So
and
you
my
think it's totally different that Stupid Young is who he is versus an Asian person that's from Orange County that didn't grow up in the hood?
Of course. Yeah, because he's being himself, he's not putting on an act. It's the difference between appropriation and cultural appreciation. So like,
Oh, see, the teens do know
Right.
what's up.
the teens
The teens know what's good.
Listen on me, West
None of them talked about him being Asian until they were prompted. Yes. Right? None of them said, wait.
When I showed this video, no one was fazed at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be. If I didn't even know him, I would watch it and listen to the song
Yeah.
more than I would care about his race. That kind of be pat on my back just as another Asian dude. Like, oh, that's tight, but I probably wouldn't even speak on it.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Like, I want to know more. Like, I'm looking, I'm like, you know, reminding me about the Cambodian, you know, refugee experience in Southern California. Yeah, like, I want to know.
If that's who he is and that's how he wants to be, he's not acting like there was nobody in the LBC
Before me.
Right, yeah. So another topic that I wanted to talk to you guys about is fashion. Really, this is where the topic of cultural appropriation comes up so much. Braids, do-rags, you know, grills, sneaker, like there's just so much cultural appropriation has become such a hot topic.
The rise of rap videos helped bring Black hairstyles and hair care into the mainstream by showcasing people rocking braids, cornrows, afros, and do-rags. However, these all existed for generations earlier, some going back thousands of years. In Africa, how you wore your hair could tell people what tribe you belonged to or what your social status was, for example. Hairstyles have also been a way to maintain and protect cultural heritage. Braided cornrows were a way for African slaves to hide rice seeds and other grains on their heads as a way to bring parts of their homeland to wherever they were forced to go. It was a simple but powerful way of remembering where they came from in the face of cultural erasure.
I kind of want to ask you about like how you feel about the do-rag, because I know that at the Grammys, the red carpet, you wore that elegant 10-foot long do-rag. Like,
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think there could be a time and a place for it. I seen bro performing in the do-rag. It wasn't a Black person on stage, and they definitely don't have Black hair. And this was originally invented as a Black hair care product. And that's what it still remains to be, even though us as a culture have elevated it to something that we used to accessorize in fashion and style now. It's just kind of futile because it won't give them waves.
Right, yeah.
That's how I kind of look at it, just the functionality.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the functionality part of it, because years ago I worked on a music video for a really famous Korean rapper, and in one of the scenes he was wearing a do-rag. And so I asked the director, I was like, this is a really interesting choice. Why is he wearing a do-rag? And the director, who is also Korean from Korea, he said, oh, because it's hip hop. Black rappers don't talk about what a do-rag is because we all just know what it's for. You know what I mean? But they don't understand that. They don't get that because it's not talked about. But I think people just like see their favorite artists doing something and they want to emulate it. When I was younger, when I saw Beyonce or Destiny's Child have like the bandana in their hair, I was like, I want to put a bandana in my hair. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we just look up to people and we want to be like them. But at the same time, like you said, it's just, there's a reason why do-rags were invented. Do you think that the imagery of do-rags in hip-hop kind of made it seem as if it's just a fashion accessory to people who aren't Black, to people
I think so.
Yeah.
A lot of those artists were K-pop artists in Korea. They see something and they like it, and it's attached to this art form that they love and appreciate, and they just wear it because they don't know.
So I don't think it's necessarily appropriation. I think that it's more so, it's the times. Hip hop is the it thing. It's been the it thing for so long, and people don't want to feel left out of the it thing. So yeah, you're gonna want to feel like your favorite artist because you want to be just like them. It's not that you're trying to appropriate them. You're just
a fan.
Exactly,
and
you're a fan. If you want to be great, you gotta act great.
Yeah. Initially, like, what's your initial thoughts when you saw something like that?
Okay, that right there is a little something different. I mean, when I saw the girl with the braids, I was like, oh, hold on. You know, I was kind of like, you know, I don't really like it because it's like, you know, I feel like that's somebody else's culture and you're kind of like trying to put yourself in their culture, you know, and it goes back into like where you came from, this type of thing.
It's even deeper than that. It's the understanding that Black people have had so many things taken from them and not given credit and not given any kind of gain from it, and they just take, right?
So what if that Asian girl grew up in the hood?
Okay, that's low-key different.
Okay.
I mean, again, I don't really like it because it's like, that's what Black people do.
Are you familiar with Jay Park?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you
he
are.
is so fun. So fun. He did wear braids at one time. I was kind of like, ooh, you know. But then I'm like, he still look cute with it. So I was like, you know what? It's fine. It's fine.
Like braids is something that anybody could. I can braid my hair.
Right,
It doesn't make me any less white or any more black. It just makes me have braided hair.
It's just a conversation. Like, you see this young lady here and you just want to go, girl, your braids are tight. Where did you get them done? Did you know why folks started really braiding their hair like that? I know people always say know the history, but the reason why it's kind of a cliche is because it's wild true. Like, know the history. It saves so much worry and hostility and anger about, are you taking something from me? Because when you are Black or just marginalized in any other way, and you feel like, you know, this is my thing. You guys have a lot as the larger culture, but this is my thing. And then you see it on somebody else and you're like, but hold on, but that's my thing. Mm-hmm. But that conversation, there's really not a place to have it because these are real feelings. It's about taking away a marginalized person's identity, their legacy, their impact on culture, and not for nothing, their financial gain.
For me, everything starts with a conversation, right? And I think we also have to frame this in terms of understanding very clearly. I am acutely aware that we are talking about two marginalized communities, right? You love hip hop. And to Danielle's point, to me, hip hop is the greatest global cultural force of perhaps centuries. It has changed how we walk, talk, dance, move, dress, love, commune, everything. And it is in every corner of this world. The cultural curiosity, to your point, right? What you were saying. Do you actually understand, you know, what is behind that? I'm not going to indict this woman, nor is Danyelle. We're not sitting here saying you can't do that, but you hope that she has a curiosity, that she first has an understanding that she is wearing a style that is not Asian, clearly, right? And so in so doing, again, to the point about erasure, I would love it if she understood the history that Danyelle is speaking about, and if she could honor that. If you're enjoying all of the other trappings, and we all do, right? I rock Timbs, absolutely. But I hope that people would say that my love of hip hop and the culture was also coupled with a curiosity and a respect for the people and the voices and the minds and the history behind it.
Yeah, I think respect is such a huge part of this conversation.
Question.
You know, thank you guys so much for having this conversation
Thank you for having
with me.
us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this was so
Thank you for
powerful.
bringing us together.
Yeah, I'm so glad
love
that this is the group that made this happen.
It was an absolute honor and privilege to chop it up with industry giants like Sophia and Danyelle. But I wanted to explore things from a specific perspective, one like mine. Guapdad 4000 is also Black and Filipino, and I wanted to connect with someone who also lives their life at the crossroads of hip hop, race, and culture.
We're Black and Filipino. We have that shared experience. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about like what you have gone through specifically like in either community.
I was really up under my Lola a lot. So as a kid, I really grew up feeling hella Filipino. I love the culture and I love to share the music, the food, especially stories and experiences about trips to the Philippines. A lot of times it was met with negativity and stereotypes. People ask me if my grandma eat dogs. You know, who is that Chinese lady? Why you live with that Chinese lady? Things like that. I do a lot of on-the-spot forgiving of people's ignorance.
Yeah, you have to.
Or else it's gonna kill you.
Yeah. I don't know if you like can relate to this, but every time like a Black person would say that you're not Black or a Filipino person would say like you're not Filipino, like it felt like an attack on my, like who I was. Like they were telling me that I couldn't be who I was.
As a Filipino and black person who had gone through a phase of rejecting my Asianness, I also went through a phase of rejecting my blackness too, because I felt like if I fully accepted it, then I was erasing another part of me. So it's always been a tug of war within myself as well on what I want to highlight about me, because I am two worlds, but it's only two worlds to y'all. To me, it's me.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balance. I think people should play it to ear, because at the same time, these people are guests in our culture
Yeah.
and in our music. So I'm not finna go out my way to break all this shit down
Yeah.
to you. Do your homework and know
Exactly.
who house you walking in. But at the same time, you in my house, I should tell you some rules real quick.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's a really good analogy. Do you feel that you are more accepted as a rapper because of your skin tone, even though you identify as also Filipino?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
I feel like I never get to say this, that's my privilege. I ain't never got to say this.
Yeah.
That's my privilege as a holder of this melanin.
Yeah.
I know what come with it. I've been in pain for what come with it. I've been in joy for what come with it. But I also know what's behind it and my actual identity, which is why I go so hard talking about my culture.
These are really difficult conversations to have, especially with strangers.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes they're just necessary. Actually, I think all the time they're necessary.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I really like this conversation. I'm glad we got to talk about this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for
It's been a
being
pleasure.
here. Yeah.
All these conversations have taught me that when we exploit and appropriate each other's cultures, we drive a wedge between people and continue a cycle of distrust and animosity. I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of how our communities are often pitted against one another by the forces of segregation and competition that try to get us all to behave like crabs in a barrel. Instead, I want to work towards a future where our differences lead us towards meaningful conversations with one another, driven by curiosity and respect. Will you commit to this future with me? This was Tracing the Trend. Thanks for watching. Peace!
Hey, Mark. Got the good old beauty fan right here.
The beauty fan?
Yeah, I'm giving her the Beyonce fan.
Got the Beyonce fan.
Mr. Guapdad 4000, everyone! Woo!
Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, we're gonna do a bunch of those.
Hey.
We sold out, but I'm gonna have stock soon.
Okay.